I think I did it. I think I finally found a thriller that spooked me a little bit. Hi, I'm Olivia. This is AV Club where I talk about horror, literary fiction, weird books, whatever I want to talk about. And today I'll be doing a review of a new release thriller, Night Watcher by Daphne Woolsoncroft. This book just came out this week, July 8th. I actually received this as a audiobook through Netgalley, but as always, these are my honest thoughts about the book. So I wasn't familiar with Daphne Woolsoncroft, but apparently has a true crime podcast. And the opening of this book, since I was listening to it on audiobook, I didn't really see if it was demarked in any kind of way. But the opening by the author, I actually thought was part of the book because it was already kind of spooky. And it's that the foreword details the still unsolved murder of her aunt that happened before she was born. And that they think it was the boyfriend or husband, but it was just like never solved. The way she was writing it already got kind of under my skin. I'm not a true crime girly at all. I do think that there are some, ethical considerations about using true crime as entertainment. And I think that those questions are tackled within the text. I've never listened to her podcast, so I don't know what the contents of those episodes are typically like or how she tackles this question, but knowing that she's coming from the perspective of a family for whom, this is real life, that it's not all just spectacle, is very interesting, especially because the main character of this book, Nola Straight, is also a kind of true crime podcaster. Nola is the host of a late night Portland, Oregon based call in radio show, which is, I guess, true crime adjacent because it's all about the paranormal sightings that people have had or other just weird, salacious nighttime happenings, thinking cryptids, urban legends, anything of that nature. And the book really starts off with a bang because one night, late at night, Nola gets a call into her radio show from a woman who sounds like she is currently being hunted down. She is complaining of a ghost in the window, that she knows that this person has been watching her, has been chasing her. Nola had had the feeling earlier that day that she had been being watched. All very spooky, and yeah, they chalk it up to a hoax because they don't really hear anything more about it. They don't see anything about it in the news the next day. This woman's blood curdling screams. Maybe just a hoax, although it sounded very realistic, especially because how this woman describes this invader into the house is very reminiscent of something that happened to Nola when she was a child, when a serial killer known only as the Hiding Man murdered her babysitter late one night while she was being watched. And for whatever reason, Nola was spared during this horrendous attack that is very grisly in nature. She's one of only two people who have ever been known to actually see the Hiding Man. And what she remembers of him from being a very small child is that he has a mask-like face, and it is just so spooky how it's described, how this mask and just the sunkenness of the black eyes. This is really where it got me, because the last time I remember being very spooked watching a horror movie was The Strangers. I don't really get scared watching horror movies anymore, and maybe I wouldn't get scared watching The Strangers, but whenever I watched it with my best friend years ago over at his apartment, I was begging him to turn it off. There was just something about it. That is like the one thing that gets me, is a home invasion, just the idea of being watched, of being stalked. That really does it for me. And also just like the mask gave kind of Michael Myers vibes, and just like how he wasn't even really seen. And so this is something that happened way in Nola's past, like 20 something years ago. And now it appears that the Hiding Man is back. And she had already had the feeling that she'd been being watched. And if the Hiding Man is back, is she next? The matters are more complicated because this Night Watch radio show is something that she actually inherited from her father. He was the semi-famous host of it for a long time and is still continuing to write true crime, paranormal type books that are very popular. And the very week that the Hiding Man seems to have come back, her father announces that he's actually writing a book about the hiding man. The knowledge that the hiding man targeted Nola's family 20 something years ago is actually unknown to the public, and Nola is heartbroken and betrayed because her father told her nothing about this, and obviously a very traumatic experience for her. The night that Nola's babysitter died, she had also been talking about how she had an older boyfriend, and Nola's dad had gone missing from a Christmas party at about the same time. A lot of evidence is pointing to him. There's just a lot of weird stuff happening. There's just something about the writing style and the audiobook production that was so magnetic that I was hooked and really wanting to know more, which is something that I haven't felt with a thriller in a long time. And I guess this is somewhere in between horror and thriller because it is honestly very spooky. And this is a completely spoiler-free review, but the way that things turn out all makes sense, but it's not something that I was able to predict. And also that my enjoyment didn't hinge on who the hiding man was or finding out all the answers. That wasn't the thing driving me forward, which frequently is in a thriller, is like you just want to rush to the end and find out what happened because it feels like that's where all of the entertainment and suspense is just in the information that's being held back from you. I thought this book did a great job of making it interesting along the way because it's talking about the reality of being a true crime podcaster and how Nola is trying to seek out these answers for herself, kind of running up against the cops at times. But it's also talking about how being kind of like an armchair detective, just doing it kind of for fun at home, is so much different than whenever it actually means something. Or even, from the detective's point of view, that there's people depending on him, where the armchair people are just kind of sitting back and being able to make guesses, and there's not really real consequences for them and their families the way that there are for people that are closer to the crime. But this book totally gave me Strangers vibes. It gave me Halloween vibes, Hush vibes, like really the way that she's being watched and like the feeling of like someone was in your house and you didn't know it, or someone overheard you and like you were even on guard and you didn't see anything happen. Is someone from across the road watching you that you don't know? It's always like that looking over your shoulder. And I cannot stress like how good this audiobook was. Like I need to find out who the narrator was and listen to everything she's done because she did such a good job that it had like the right amount of suspense in it. Like it wasn't overly melodramatic. I think if you listen to thriller audiobooks, you know what I'm talking about, where sometimes like it's just they want to sound, very invested in the book, but sometimes it's just distracting. This one was perfect. I also love a book that has a podcast in it. This one didn't have that podcast mixed media vibe where there's like excerpts or transcripts, anything like that, but I liked still that it covered it. I think it gives an interesting vibe to it. I think it's also interesting that something like Halloween is typically, I mean, there's new Halloween movies, but they're mostly pre technology, pre cell phone vibes. The Strangers is out in the middle of nowhere. This is in Portland, Oregon. This is in suburbia, and you still get the feeling like someone is watching you, someone's in your window. But yeah, I'd recommend this to anyone who likes a true crime mystery thriller, but also horror readers. I think horror readers would get really into this one as well if you want a book that's kind of Michael Myers vibes. I haven't seen anyone talk about this. I haven't seen it on any upcoming thriller list, so I really hope that it does get more popular because I do think it's something that a lot of people will like. So far, my number one thriller of the year, my number one thriller of probably multiple years. I really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun, very entertaining, and I'm so excited to see what else she writes. True crime, still not my thing, so probably won't be checking out the podcast, but good to know if you do want to get into more. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today. If you have read it, I'd love to hear what you thought about it or if it sounds good. If you know of other books that have kind of strangers vibes. I've never read a book like this before. Maybe the closest would be Anybody Home, which is a home invasion book, which I also really liked. I don't know. Maybe home invasion is just not as popular for books as they are for movies. But I will be back very soon to talk more about books. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting, whatever. I will talk to y'all again soon. Bye.